Let me tell you something most men will never say out loud. When a woman walks into a room after 60, men are not obsessing over whether she looks 25 again. They're searching for something far more magnetic, something deeper, something that instantly tells them this woman knows who she is. And the truth is, there are 5 specific body areas men notice first, not because of perfection, but because they reveal confidence, energy, femininity, and emotional warmth. Tonight, I'm going to show you exactly what those 5 things are and why some women over 60 become even more attractive with age, while others slowly fade into the background. Let's start with the first thing men notice almost instantly: the eyes. Now, most people think men are only visual creatures in the most superficial sense. They think attraction is just about flawless skin, perfect features, or looking younger than your age. But what surprises many women is this: the eyes carry emotional energy in a way no other part of the body can. A man can look at a woman for 3 seconds and completely forget the color of her dress, but he will remember the feeling in her eyes because eyes tell a story. They tell him whether this woman is warm or cold, peaceful or bitter, confident or insecure, open-hearted or emotionally closed off. And the older we get, the more powerful that emotional message becomes. See, when a woman is over 60, men are no longer just looking for surface beauty. Mature men especially are searching for emotional comfort, emotional connection. They want to feel calm around someone, seen by someone, accepted by someone. And your eyes communicate all of that before you even say a word. You've probably met women in your life who weren't technically the most beautiful women in the room, yet somehow everyone was drawn to them. Men listened to them more, looked at them longer, wanted to sit near them, wanted their attention. Why? Because their eyes had life in them. There was warmth there, curiosity there, playfulness there, presence there, and presence is incredibly attractive. A woman who makes eye contact with calm confidence instantly separates herself from everyone else, because so many people today are emotionally disconnected. They're distracted, guarded, closed off. But a woman who looks at a man with relaxed, confident eyes makes him feel something rare. She makes him feel emotionally welcomed. That doesn't mean staring intensely. It doesn't mean trying too hard to appear seductive. In fact, the women who are the most magnetic are usually the ones who are not performing at all. They're simply comfortable in themselves, and men can sense that comfort. You see, confidence in your eyes doesn't come from makeup. It doesn't come from expensive procedures. It comes from emotional acceptance. It comes from a woman who no longer feels she has to prove her worth to everyone around her. There's something deeply attractive about a woman who has lived, learned, survived difficult moments and still has softness in her eyes. That softness is powerful because life can harden people. Pain can make people cold. Disappointment can make people defensive. And when someone becomes emotionally guarded for too long, you can actually see it in their expression. Their eyes stop sparkling. Their face becomes tense. They stop looking at people openly because they're protecting themselves from hurt. But the women who remain attractive over 60 are usually the women who refuse to let life steal their warmth. That doesn't mean they haven't suffered. It means they didn't allow suffering to define their energy, and men notice that immediately. A man may not consciously say, "Her eyes make me feel safe," but emotionally that's exactly what happens, because attraction at this stage of life becomes emotional before it becomes physical. A warm glance can be more seductive than a perfect body. A peaceful expression can be more memorable than flawless skin. A genuine smile in the eyes can make a man feel more connected than anything rehearsed or artificial. And here's another important truth: eye contact reflects self-worth. Women who constantly avoid eye contact often appear uncertain, anxious, or disconnected from themselves. But when a woman holds eye contact naturally, not aggressively, just calmly, it signals emotional stability. It tells a man, "I know who I am." That energy is incredibly rare, especially today where so many people seek validation constantly. But a woman who can simply sit, listen, smile softly, and maintain relaxed eye contact creates emotional gravity. People lean toward her naturally. And there's another layer to this that many people overlook. Joy. Men notice joy in a woman's eyes, not fake happiness, real joy, real lightness, real appreciation for life. You know, the kind of woman who laughs easily. The woman who notices beauty in small things. The woman who makes conversations feel lighter instead of emotionally draining. That energy shows up in her eyes immediately, and mature men deeply value that because peace becomes more attractive with age. Drama becomes less attractive. Negativity becomes tiring, but emotional lightness becomes magnetic. This is why some women become more attractive at 60 than they were at 30, because confidence finally replaces insecurity. Presence replaces performance. Emotional peace replaces the desperate need for approval. And all of that becomes visible in the eyes. So if there's one thing I want every woman listening to understand, it's this. Your eyes are not attractive because they are young. They are attractive because they are alive. Alive with confidence. Alive with warmth. Alive with wisdom. Alive with femininity. Alive with emotional openness. And when a man sees that in your eyes, he's not just looking at your appearance anymore. He's feeling your energy. And energy is what people remember long after looks fade. Now, the second thing men notice, and this is far more powerful than most women realize, is the smile. Not the rehearsed smile, not the forced smile people use for photographs. I mean the real smile, the one that comes from emotional warmth. Because a genuine smile has the ability to completely change the energy a woman gives off. You can take two women standing in the exact same room wearing the exact same outfit with similar features, and the woman with the warmer, more relaxed smile will almost always feel more attractive to the people around her. Why? Because a smile is emotional communication. It instantly tells a man whether he feels safe approaching you, whether you seem open to life, whether being around you would feel peaceful or emotionally draining. And as men mature, this becomes incredibly important. Younger men are often distracted by surface-level beauty, but mature men start paying attention to emotional experience. They begin asking themselves consciously or unconsciously, how do I feel around this woman? And a warm smile answers that question immediately. A woman with a genuine smile creates comfort. She creates ease. She creates emotional softness in a world that often feels cold, rushed, and disconnected. And there's something deeply feminine about that energy. See, the most captivating women over 60 are usually not the women trying desperately to appear younger than they are. They are the women who radiate warmth, the women who make conversations feel lighter, the women whose presence relaxes people instead of making them tense. And that often starts with the smile, because your smile reveals your relationship with life itself. There are people who smile out of politeness, and there are people who smile because they still have joy inside them. Men can feel the difference instantly. A real smile reaches the eyes, it softens the face, it changes the entire atmosphere around a woman. In fact, many men will tell you that a woman becomes dramatically more attractive the moment she genuinely smiles. Why? Because beauty without warmth can feel intimidating or emotionally distant, but warmth creates connection. And connection is what people crave, especially later in life. You see, by the time most people reach their 50s or 60s, they've experienced heartbreak, disappointment, stress, loss, pressure, and emotional fatigue. Life humbles everyone eventually. So when a man meets a woman whose smile still carries kindness and lightness, it feels refreshing. It feels almost healing. That smile says, I haven't allowed life to make me bitter. And that is incredibly attractive because bitterness shows too. You can see it in people's expressions. Tight lips, forced reactions, constant seriousness, emotional heaviness. And over time, that energy pushes people away without them even realizing it. But a woman who smiles naturally gives off emotional openness. She appears approachable, graceful, comfortable in herself. And comfort in yourself is magnetic. Now, let's be honest about something. Many women stop smiling freely as they get older because they become self-conscious. Maybe they worry about wrinkles. Maybe they feel aging has changed their appearance. Maybe life has made them guarded. But ironically, the attempt to hide emotion often removes the very thing that makes someone attractive in the first place. Because perfection has never been the most magnetic quality in a person. Humanity is, warmth is, authenticity is. A real smile tells a man, I'm present, I'm alive, I'm enjoying this moment. And people are naturally drawn toward those who make life feel emotionally lighter. Think about the women everyone remembers fondly. It's usually not because they looked flawless every second of the day. It's because they had a way of making others feel good in their presence. That's the power of emotional warmth, and a smile is often the doorway to that warmth. Now, another thing men notice about a woman's smile is confidence. Not arrogance, not attention-seeking behavior. Quiet confidence. There's something beautiful about a woman who smiles without constantly wondering how she looks while doing it. A woman who laughs freely. A woman who isn't obsessed with appearing perfect every second. That freedom is attractive because it signals emotional security. People are exhausted today by performance, by masks, by pretending, but authenticity feels rare, and rare things become valuable. So when a woman smiles genuinely without trying too hard, it immediately separates her from the crowd. And mature men especially appreciate this because emotional peace becomes more attractive with age than drama or perfection ever could. A warm smile can soften an entire conversation. It can make a man feel accepted instantly. It can make him feel less judged, less pressured, more connected, and often that emotional feeling matters far more than appearance itself. You know, some women walk into a room and everyone notices their beauty. But a few minutes later, people forget them. Other women walk into a room with warmth, ease, and genuine joy, and people remember them all night. That's emotional attraction, and emotional attraction lasts longer than physical attraction ever will. This is also why some women become more radiant as they age, because they stop trying to compete and start becoming more themselves. Their smile becomes softer, more genuine, less performative, and there's wisdom in that kind of femininity. A woman who can still smile warmly after everything life has taught her carries a kind of beauty that no cosmetic procedure can create. It's emotional elegance, and men notice it deeply, even if they can't always explain why. So never underestimate the power of your smile, not because it hides age, not because it makes you look younger, but because it reveals your spirit. And in the end, people are far more affected by the energy you bring into a room than the perfection of your appearance. A genuine smile tells the world, I'm comfortable with who I am. I still have joy in me. I still have warmth in me. And that kind of feminine energy never stops being attractive. Now, the third thing men notice on women over 60 is posture. And this one is incredibly powerful because posture speaks before you ever open your mouth. Long before a conversation begins, long before a man knows your personality, your posture is already telling him a story about how you feel about yourself. And what's fascinating is that most women don't even realize how much emotional information their body language gives away every single day. Because posture is not just physical, it's emotional. The way a woman stands, walks, sits, and carries herself communicates confidence, self-respect, emotional energy, and even the way she experiences life. You can often tell within seconds whether someone feels defeated by life or deeply grounded within themselves. And mature men notice this immediately. Now, when people hear the word posture, they usually think about standing straight or pulling the shoulders back. But attractive posture is not about looking stiff or formal. It's about carrying yourself with calm, confidence, and ease. A woman who walks into a room with relaxed shoulders, a lifted head, and graceful movement instantly gives off a completely different energy than someone who shrinks herself physically. Because posture reflects presence, and presence is magnetic. You've probably seen women over 60 who don't necessarily look like models, and yet everyone notices them when they enter a room. There's something elegant about them, something grounded. They move slowly, calmly, confidently. They don't rush. They don't fidget nervously. They don't constantly seek approval with their body language. And that calm physical confidence becomes deeply attractive. Why? Because it communicates emotional security. A woman who carries herself well sends an unspoken message that says, I know my worth. I'm comfortable in my own skin. I don't need to fight for attention. And that energy immediately changes the way people respond to her. Men especially are drawn to women who seem emotionally at ease within themselves because that kind of confidence feels peaceful to be around. See, many people confuse attraction with trying hard. They think being attractive means constantly performing, constantly impressing, constantly proving something. But true feminine presence is often quieter than that. It's not loud. It's not desperate, it's not attention seeking, it's calm. And posture plays a huge role in creating that calm energy. Think about the difference between someone who constantly folds into herself, avoids eye contact, rushes her movements, and physically appears apologetic for taking up space versus a woman who stands naturally tall, moves with grace, and appears relaxed in her body. The emotional impact is completely different. One energy says insecurity, the other says self-respect, and people respond instinctively to that difference. Now, here's something important. Posture changes with emotional state. When people feel hurt, rejected, insecure, or emotionally exhausted, the body often begins collapsing inward. The shoulders tense, the head lowers, movements become heavier, life literally starts showing up physically. And over time, many women unknowingly carry the emotional weight of years in their posture, not because of age itself, but because stress, heartbreak, pressure, and self-doubt affect the body. But the women who remain captivating over 60 are often the women who consciously protect their energy and continue carrying themselves with dignity, not perfection. Dignity, that distinction matters, because attractive posture is not about pretending to be flawless, it's about refusing to disappear. And sadly, many women begin shrinking themselves as they age. Society often sends the message that youth is the only form of beauty worth noticing. So some women unconsciously withdraw. They become quieter physically, smaller physically, less expressive physically. But confident women do the opposite. They continue showing up fully. They continue carrying themselves proudly. They continue moving through life with grace. And men notice that deeply. There's something undeniably attractive about a woman who seems comfortable occupying her own space in the world. Because comfort in yourself creates emotional calm in others. And mature men value emotional calm far more than superficial perfection. Now, another reason posture matters so much is because it affects femininity. A relaxed, graceful posture naturally creates softer energy, not weak energy. Soft energy, there's a difference. Softness is powerful because it creates emotional ease. A woman who moves gracefully, listens calmly, and carries herself with relaxed confidence feels emotionally inviting. And that's what many men are drawn toward later in life. Not chaos, not performance, not competition, peace. This is why elegant women often appear timeless. It's not necessarily their clothes or physical features, it's how they carry themselves, the slowness in their movements, the confidence in their posture, the calmness in their energy. They don't appear rushed by life, and that creates a kind of sophistication people naturally admire. Even simple things matter more than people realize. The way a woman walks into a restaurant, the way she sits during a conversation, the way she turns her head while listening, the way she carries tension or releases it. All of these things communicate emotional information. And men feel that subconsciously. A woman with graceful posture appears more confident, more feminine, more emotionally balanced, and often even more youthful. Not because she looks younger, but because her energy feels alive. That's what posture really reveals. Aliveness. A woman who still carries herself with purpose and elegance tells the world she hasn't emotionally given up on herself. And that's incredibly inspiring to people all around her. Now, let me say something important here. Good posture is not about trying to impress men. It's about how you feel within yourself. Because the moment a woman reconnects to her own confidence physically, everything changes emotionally too. She feels stronger, more present, more grounded, more feminine, more alive, and people respond to that automatically. This is why posture becomes even more important after 60, because at this stage of life, attraction becomes less about chasing beauty and more about embodying presence. And presence cannot be faked. You either carry yourself like someone who values herself or you don't. And when a woman walks into a room with graceful posture, relaxed confidence, and emotional ease, she creates something incredibly rare today. A feeling of calm strength. And that kind of feminine energy never stops being attractive. Now, the fourth thing men notice on women over 60 is something many women completely overlook: the hands. And at first, some people might think, really, hands? But yes, because hands reveal far more about a woman than most people realize. They reveal grace, they reveal femininity, they reveal self-care, they reveal emotional energy, and perhaps most importantly, they reveal how a woman moves through the world. You see, men don't notice hands in the shallow way people imagine. It's not about having perfect skin or looking 20 years younger. Mature men especially are not sitting there analyzing every tiny detail. What they notice is the feeling your hands communicate, because hands are deeply connected to body language. The way a woman gestures while speaking, the way she touches objects gently, the way she holds a coffee cup, the way she places her hand on a table while listening, all of these small movements communicate emotional energy, and graceful energy is incredibly attractive. Think about the women who naturally capture attention without trying too hard. Often they move with softness and intention. Nothing feels rushed or aggressive. Their gestures feel calm, feminine, elegant, and people feel that subconsciously. Now, here's what's fascinating. Hands often reflect emotional state more honestly than words do. A nervous person fidgets constantly. A tense person moves sharply. An emotionally guarded person may keep their hands tightly closed or rigid, but a woman who feels comfortable within herself usually has relaxed, expressive, graceful movements, and those relaxed movements create emotional comfort in the people around her. That's one reason men notice hands so much, because hands are part of emotional communication. When a woman speaks with calm gestures and relaxed energy, it makes her presence feel softer and more inviting. And softness is deeply powerful. Not weakness, not passiveness, softness. There's a huge difference. A woman can be incredibly strong and still have softness in the way she carries herself. In fact, some of the strongest women have the gentlest energy because they no longer feel the need to prove their strength aggressively, and that maturity becomes visible even in the hands. You see, by the time a woman reaches 60, her attractiveness is no longer just about physical beauty. It becomes about emotional elegance, and emotional elegance shows up in small details: the way she greets people, the way she expresses emotion, the way she moves during conversation, the calmness in her gestures. All of that matters more than people think. Now let's talk about self-care for a moment. Men also notice when a woman takes care of herself through the little things. Clean nails, soft grooming, simple elegance. None of this needs to be extravagant or expensive. In fact, trying too hard often has the opposite effect. What men are really noticing is effort, care, pride in oneself. There's something deeply attractive about a woman who values herself enough to maintain small rituals of self-care. Not because she's trying to impress everyone around her, but because she respects herself, and self-respect is magnetic. A woman who neglects herself physically often gives off the energy that she has emotionally given up on herself too. But a woman who still takes care in the small details communicates something powerful. I still matter to myself. That energy changes everything, because attraction after 60 becomes much more connected to vitality than perfection. Vitality means life energy, presence, warmth, aliveness, and surprisingly, hands can communicate that beautifully. You can often tell whether someone still feels engaged with life simply by watching how they move. Some people move as though life exhausted them years ago. Everything feels heavy and tense. Others move with calmness, grace, and openness, and it immediately makes them feel younger emotionally, regardless of age. That emotional youthfulness is incredibly attractive. And another thing men notice is touch, not in an overly romantic sense necessarily, but in emotional presence. A woman who lightly touches someone's arm while laughing, who gestures warmly during conversation, who moves with tenderness rather than harshness, creates emotional intimacy naturally. And mature men value emotional intimacy deeply. At this stage in life, connection matters more than performance. Men are no longer just impressed by appearance alone. They're affected by how a woman makes them feel emotionally, and gentle feminine energy creates comfort. That comfort often begins through tiny physical details people don't consciously think about, including the hands. Now, many women become self-conscious about their hands as they age. They notice signs of aging and begin hiding them. But the irony is this: mature men are usually far less concerned about perfection than women think. What captivates people emotionally is authenticity and energy. A woman with expressive, graceful hands full of warmth will almost always feel more attractive than someone obsessing over appearing flawless, because perfection without emotional presence feels cold. But warmth pulls people in, and hands are part of that warmth. Even the way a woman uses her hands while telling a story can make her feel more alive, more engaging, more feminine. Think about someone speaking passionately, smiling, moving naturally, completely present in the moment. Their entire energy becomes magnetic. Why? Because they're emotionally open, and openness is attractive. This is also why elegant women often seem timeless. They don't move with frantic energy. They move with intention. Their gestures feel graceful instead of chaotic. Their presence feels calming instead of draining. And men notice that immediately, especially in a world where so many people are stressed, distracted, aggressive, or emotionally shut down. A woman with calm, feminine energy stands out powerfully today. And sometimes that energy is revealed through the smallest details: the softness of her gestures, the gentleness in her touch, the confidence in the way she carries herself physically. So when we talk about hands, we're not really talking about appearance alone. We're talking about expression. Your hands reveal whether you're tense or peaceful, whether you're emotionally open or guarded, whether you move through life with grace or frustration. And mature men feel those things deeply, even if they never say it out loud. Because attraction after 60 becomes emotional long before it becomes physical. And graceful feminine energy often lives in the smallest, quietest details, including the hands. Now, the fifth thing men notice on women over 60 is the neck and shoulders. And this may sound subtle, but emotionally, it has an enormous impact on how a woman's energy is perceived. Because the neck and shoulders reveal something most people try very hard to hide: tension. They reveal stress, pressure, confidence, softness, emotional ease. And men notice this far more than women realize. You see, the shoulders carry life. Over the years, people hold stress in their bodies without even noticing it. Worry tightens the shoulders. Anxiety hardens the neck. Emotional exhaustion changes the way a person physically carries themselves. And after decades of responsibilities, heartbreaks, pressure, disappointments, raising families, surviving difficult seasons, and constantly taking care of others, many women unconsciously begin carrying the emotional weight of life in this exact area of the body. But the women who remain deeply captivating after 60 are often the women who learn how to release that tension instead of living trapped inside it, because relaxed shoulders and graceful posture create something incredibly attractive. Emotional calm becomes magnetic with age. Younger attraction is often loud and impulsive. But mature attraction becomes quieter, deeper, more emotional. Men begin noticing how a woman makes them feel internally. Does her energy feel peaceful? Does she seem emotionally grounded? Does being around her feel calming or draining? And surprisingly, the neck and shoulders communicate a huge part of that answer before a single word is spoken. A woman with relaxed shoulders instantly appears more feminine, more elegant, more approachable, and more emotionally secure. Not because of perfection, not because she looks younger, but because her body language says, "I'm comfortable in myself."